Hi, and welcome to Interview Showcase. I'm your host, Lexi Hurdle. Joining me today is Peter Mallette, the Executive Director of Prostate Cancer Canada's Atlantic Region. Thank you so much for joining me, Peter.
Thanks for asking me.
Great. So cancer has touched all of our lives in some way, and I know that you had a brush with prostate cancer yourself. Do you want to tell me a little bit about that experience?
Sure. I was in my 40s when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. Prostate cancer runs in my family, sadly. My grandfather had prostate cancer and he had 7 sons, and many of his 7 sons had prostate cancer, including my father. So I wasn't surprised that I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, but what shocked me was how young I was when I got the diagnosis, because I thought prostate cancer was something that old men got, that my grandfather had and my father had. So I thought mistakenly that I had years to go before I was had to be worried about it. And the very first test I had came back positive, and within weeks I was being treated for prostate cancer. And anybody who's ever had a diagnosis of cancer knows that it feels like a bomb goes off in your life, and that's certainly the experience that my family had.
Yeah. And how did that diagnosis impact your career and just where you were at your point in your life then?
I was a journalist at the time working for CTV, and I discussed with my boss, because I was a weekend news anchor and I was going away for potentially 3 months, should I say something? And we agreed that it would be appropriate to tell our viewers who watched us every weekend that I was going to be away and where I was going. And after much thought, that's what I did. And it was a turning point in my life, not only having had cancer, but actually making that announcement, because people reached out to my family, people that I didn't know, and dozens of people who were watching that night who had connections to prostate cancer, who sort of lifted my spirits and told me that, you know, there is life after a cancer diagnosis. So everything, of course, that I had read online about prostate cancer was quite negative. So the response I got from viewers was very positive. So it was the right thing to do. After getting better, I came back to work and became a volunteer for Prostate Cancer Canada, which turned into, thankfully, a full-time job.
Yeah, so it was kind of made it a little bit more real and just added that really connection to even more so than your viewers before, in that sense.
Yeah, and I think that having the personal connection to the disease helps when I tell my story, because a lot of what we do at Prostate Cancer Canada, you know, we're trying to save lives, but we're also trying to raise money. And you raise money by telling your story, and people are moved quite often by stories of survival, and that's what we do.
Yeah, exactly. And in 2010, I believe you joined Prostate Cancer Canada.
Full-time.
Full-time. And what was really the driving force behind actually joining Prostate Cancer Canada's region?
I felt like I could contribute something positive to the cause. This is the very first regional operation for Prostate Cancer Canada other than our central office in Toronto. We are a national foundation, but we actually have feet on the ground here in Atlantic Canada. And it was the challenge of starting an operation, which I had never done before. I got to, you know, with my colleagues from our central office, got to pick a team to work with. So we found some office space. We threw the paint on the wall, bought some rugs, and threw some desks in there. So we really started it from the ground up. And the relationships that I had cultivated as a journalist for 30 years were relationships that I'm still cultivating now, just for different reasons.
Yeah.
Having the profile in the media also helps a lot.
Yeah,
too.
exactly.
Yeah, it does help a lot.
So Prostate Cancer Canada does have a very recognizable icon, which is this blue striped tie. Can you tell me a little bit about the symbolism behind that tie and how it ties into your fundraising?
Well, it's our brand. It's in everything we do. It's on our letterhead, it's on our envelopes, it's on our pins, on our jackets. And the tie represents hope, is what it does. And it's a very tasteful brand. You know, there was a time when the brand for prostate cancer was quite often a pair of underwear or something comical and something not as tasteful as the tie. So this works on a number of different levels, and it's a nice tie. I mean,
it is.
I wear it quite often, and I see men on the streets of Halifax wearing it. I'll give you an example. There was a young lawyer who was called to the bar not long ago, and his picture appeared in the Halifax Chronicle Herald with our tie on.
Wow.
So I called him and I said, congratulations, what's your connection to the cause? And he said, my boss bought me this tie last year or the year before, and he said, I like it a lot, and when I wear it, I tell everybody what it stands for and what it signifies. So
it's almost like a sort of initiation to speak about the cause in a sense.
Right, and any time that we can speak about our cause and get our message and our brand out there, of course, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. Awareness is definitely key.
Yep.
Now, what would you say is Prostate Cancer Canada's most well-known fundraiser?
Well, we have two signature, what we call signature fundraising events here in Halifax and in the Atlantic region. We have a business breakfast, which takes place in the fall, and it's called our Wake Up Call Breakfast. So what we try and do is provide everybody with a wake-up call about their health. And the other event we have is on Father's Day, and it's like a lot of other charities, it's a walk and a run, and it's called the Father's Day Walk Run. This year will be a little different because we are rebranding that event, and it's going to be called the Do It for Dad. So you don't necessarily have to walk or run. You can have a barbecue, you can have a car wash, you can have a bake sale, you can be as imaginative as you want and show up on event day and present the check and, do it for Dad is what it's called.
Wow, so it's kind of progressing with the fundraiser itself, or with the foundation itself a little bit.
Right, and it's a national event, so it'll be taking place, here in Cape Breton, hopefully for the first time this year, in Fredericton, and in as many as 19 cities and towns across the country.
Great. Now, what are some other ways that Prostate Cancer Canada, besides fundraising, helps those dealing with the disease?
We have 23 support groups in Atlantic Canada. I'm very proud of the fact that in Nova Scotia we have the only Black support group affiliated with Prostate Cancer Canada in the country, and we have a gay support group in Halifax as well. We respect diversity, and gay men have the same plumbing as straight men, they just use it differently. So we needed to create an opportunity for them to come together to discuss issues that are affecting, gay men who have a run-in with prostate cancer. At the same time, Black men are more predisposed to prostate cancer than Caucasian men, yet when you look around the province, there are very few Black men that attend support groups. So what we did is we aligned ourselves with leaders in the Black community, and with their blessing and their hard work, we launched a support group in Upper Hammonds Plains, and there is every indication next year that we'll be launching a second Black support group in the Preston Cherrybrook region for men on the Dartmouth side of the harbor. So very proud of those initiatives, and of course, all run by volunteers. Without volunteers, we wouldn't be able to do the work that we do in terms of the amount of awareness and the amount of outreach that we do.
Yeah, exactly. Now, in your years dealing with Prostate Cancer Canada, what was one moment in particular where you just kind of sat back and thought, like, this is why we do this. This is the thing. This is the reason why we keep going.
I had a moment like that last night on the phone with a guy who's 41, who was diagnosed with prostate cancer last year, who thought he was dying because he was having such a hard time. He doesn't live in the city. He lives in a rural part of the province. Had surgery, he had radiation, then he had more surgery to correct the effects of the radiation, and a lot of the side effects of prostate cancer are below the belt. And his sexual health was compromised, his urinary health was compromised. He told me that he booked himself a 6-month farewell tour around the world because he thought he was dying, and I called him last night, and he said, I've changed the name of my farewell tour to a celebratory tour. He said, I'm feeling better.
All right.
I'm going to survive.
Well, that's really great. Well, that's all the time we have for today, unfortunately, and a huge thank you again to my wonderful guest, Peter Mallette. Thank you so much. And to learn more about Prostate Cancer Canada and how you can donate to this amazing cause, you can visit www.prostatecancer.ca. Don't forget to join us next time on Interview Showcase.